What's your worst story from the throw him in the pool, he'll learn how to swim parenting style?
2 days after I graduated high school, I came home to an empty house, all my stuff in the hall because my mom and stepdad moved without me. I have been financially independent ever since, but a heads up would have been nice.
When I was around 11 or 12, two kids from the neighborhood got into a street fight. Kid number 1 clearly got the best of kid number 2, and kid number 2 was crying and went home. Should have been end of story. Kid number 2's parents met him at his front door and sent him back out there to continue to fight. I'm not sure if it was about honor or what, but it was painful to watch.
My dad bought a new house after my parents divorced. Behind us were 2 kids close in age, 9 to 10 I think, with me that used to fuck with me every time I visited. One day, they hopped my dad's fence, pushed me down and stole my basketball. When I told my dad, he decided to go talk to their parents to get my ball back. Oh wait. That's what normal dads would do. My dad, a former pro boxer, made me fist fight both of them one at a time and earn my basketball back.
Let your kid touch the fire, he won't do that again. 3rd degree burns for life. This actual thing. I was a lifeguard as high schooler. Some parent did this to their 5-year-old. Parent thought the kid was fine, because he wasn't splashing around, he was bobbing up and down with his arms going straight up, and straight out. That actually means they're drowning. Had to jump in and grab the kid, who had swallowed significant amounts of water, and call an ambulance to check the kid out. Parent didn't want us to call the ambulance, but we told him it was the ambulance, or the police, because what he did could be considered child endangerment. Dad was losing his shit, screaming at me, a 17-year-old girl. Owner of the pool saw this, and he, former Navy dude, got up in the guy's face. Parent was banned from the pool for life. To this day, I'm convinced the guy was completely hammered. 7 years old, my dad bought some kind of science kit for my brother and I, which contained a scalpel. When he was showing it to us, he said, "Give me your hand." I stuck my hand out without thought and he cut my finger open. In retrospect, I don't think there was a lesson to be learned.
Just walk it off. My dad, when I developed a big nasty cyst on my toe when my mom was away on a stressful trip. She was not pleased to come back and have to immediately drive me to the hospital. It got to the point where I took one step on it and almost passed out. He apologized afterward. Got a sandwich from a really good sandwich place and I forgave him. Now I laugh about it.
I actually used to be a swim teacher in college and made a ton of money teaching private lessons in people's backyards because of parents who had thrown their kids into the pool to sink or swim. It was usually moms calling me for help because they heard from a friend of a friend that I was able to teach their kid and get them to like the water again in about a month or less. One kid. He was 7. I had to sit with him on the pool deck the whole first lesson and bring buckets of water to him. His dad had dunked him multiple times and insisted that his son would just figure it out eventually. Because that's how he learned. Needless to say, he was never home when I was there. The mom had me come while dad was at work. 4 weeks later, she had me come later in the afternoon so he would come home towards the end of the lesson. His dad saw his son swimming and cried happy tears. He had no idea I had been there 3 days a week for a month. My favorite student was a 70-year-old man who wanted to do a triathlon but never learned to swim because his dad threw him in as a child. It took about 3 months total. A lot of hand-holding on the steps and shallow end. But he finally achieved his goal and I got to cheer him on at the finish line. I still remember how each of my students clung to my arms and clawed at my neck in their first lessons. I never dunked or forced anyone out of their comfort zone. My lessons had to be customized for each student to keep it fun and relaxing. The trauma in their eyes was haunting though. It stayed with me and I never force anything on my kids that they aren't ready to do. It's about trust, not force. My mom's whole parenting style was sink or swim, but funny enough, it's when my mom tossed me in the pool. The summer between first and second grade, my family moved somewhere with a pool. My mom was adamant that I had learned to swim as a baby. So she bought floaties for my younger sister and refused to buy any for me because I already knew how to swim and was too big for floaties. When I refused to get into any part of the pool, I couldn't walk in. My mom called me from outside the pool and promptly grabbed me and tossed me into the 6-foot end. And surprise, I didn't know how to swim. I remember splashing twice, hearing my mom yell at me to stop panicking. Then I went under and tried swimming to the surface like I'd seen in movies and eventually got my head a bit above water, coughed out a bunch of water and started screaming for help before I went under again. My mom told me to stop making a scene and swim towards the edge. I made it to the edge and couldn't pull myself out of the pool, so my mom yelled at me to swim to the shallow end. When I tried to grab onto the edge to just pull myself to the shallow ends, my mom kept taking my fingers off the edge and yelling for me to stop playing and just swim. When I finally got to the shallow part, my mom and family just went, "See, you still remember how to swim. You never forget." My stepmom walked us, me, sister, brother 10 to 12, deep into the woods and left us there to learn survival skills. We thought we were all out on a hike, then she distracted us and ran away. We wandered into camp hours later. We knew how to get back but searched for hours, worried that something had happened to her. She was drinking margaritas and smirking. Every time I asked my parents to explain something as a kid, I was told either, "You're smart, you'll figure it out," or, "You just don't want to do it." Any attempt at maturity was met with either flat-out laughter or being told that I was too young to worry about that. Cue me turning 18, and suddenly I'm expected to be an adult, get a job, pay taxes, and all that jazz. I asked, where in the hell do I start? And they got pissy because I apparently hadn't figured anything out. Wonder why?
They threw me in the pool. I drowned. I needed CPR. They let me use my floaties after that.
My younger cousin, 4 at the time, was a climber and always needed help getting down. His dad told his mom to leave him. He'll either learn how to get down himself or stop climbing. Cousin ended up climbing onto the roof, fell off and got impaled on a fence pole. One very expensive trip to the ER, and he now has a cool scar on his thigh. My parents told me they were kicking me out at 18 in a move to motivate me. I was in college, no job and virtually no money. My grandfather had left me about $10K as savings bonds that I asked for, but they wouldn't give me. So I made a plan. I went around to 5 different Targets and shoplifted about 4 to 5 video games that I took to GameStop to sell. Stupid and wrong, I know. And at the end of the day I had about $600. I was planning on buying some weed to sell to get some income going till I got on my feet. But when I got back to my house, a cop was waiting for me. Parents ended up cashing in my $10K to pay for the lawyer. I was always a picky eater growing up. One time my mom sat me down with a small bowl of almonds and told me I couldn't get up out of my seat until I finished it. I insisted that I hated them and they were making my mouth itch. She thought I was just being difficult. I just started to swallow the almonds like pills because my mouth was so itchy from chewing on them. A couple years later I saw an allergist and discovered I was allergic to tree nuts.
They didn't want to teach me to tie my shoes, because my mom said I had to learn that myself, so should you.
My brother and I are 7 years apart. When he was 16 and I was 9, he taught me how to box by putting a hockey helmet on me and beating the ever-loving shit out of me. I'm reasonably certain I was concussed. And I suffered horrible migraines from that day well into my 20s. When I was about 5 or 6, I was very sick with a flu, fever, vomiting, sweating, congestion. It was awful. There was some mix-up at the pharmacy. And they thought I was my father and gave him adult medication, basically these giant horse pills. Now, normal child medication for things like this are syrups and chewable shit for obvious reasons. My dad comes home and tells me I have to take these meds. I have a hard time getting them down. Almost choking a few times. My dad got frustrated and literally started shoving these huge pills down my sore throat with his angrily shaking fingers. I started crying. My nose was stuffed so I could only breathe through my mouth. I remember my dad's wedding ring banging against my teeth. Eyes watering. Gasping for air while looking at my mom for help. Eventually I coughed it back up. Crying and throat on fire. I remember my mom demanding an apology from my dad, who just said, "Well, he's going to have to learn to take pills like that sometime anyway," and stormed off. Damn. I haven't thought about that story in 20+ years. At age 4, my father decided that my sister and I should learn to tie our shoes. He made us stand there for hours trying to do it. Crying. We just weren't quite old enough. Edited for unfortunate autocorrect.
My dad actually did throw me in a pool to see if I could swim.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.